How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to bring you a race review of a recent event I did in the IR4 cars at Imola. I figured it would be a good opportunity to look back at the race, evaluate what I did well, what I didn't do well, learn from it, and provide you guys with a little bit of racing content from a mediocre iRacer. Stick around to the end. I'm going to do a pros and cons list sort of thing after I have had a chance to look over the race and give myself a grade. I'm also going to give myself a gold star for the thing I think I did best, because I know there's going to be a lot of things we probably don't do well, but I think it's going to be important to highlight, a couple of the things that we did do really, really well. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We are here at Imola, and we've got partly cloudy skies. We had a bit of on and off shade throughout the race. It wasn't too bad. We qualified P7, and P5, I believe, never ended up hitting the grid. We also had a pretty rough start. This is the first time I've raced this car at Imola. This is the first time I've raced Imola in this game. Lots of firsts. I hadn't raced this car in a long time either, so I was pretty unprepared. I had done a few practice laps previously, but I had not done a practice start, so that's going to be something we kind of look back at later on, kind of review. Another thing that's going to come back to haunt us a few times throughout this race is turn 5 and 6. We had a pretty rough time throughout the whole race getting through those turns efficiently. We sort of settled down towards the end of the race, but we never really found our groove like we did with a few of the other turns. We're going to look back on that and review that as well. As you'll see here on lap 2, we actually lock up going into 6, and we get hit in the rear end. We didn't sustain too much damage. We did receive a few incident points. I was smart about it. I took my time re-entering the track so that A, I wouldn't get in anybody else's way, and B, I would have a clean re-entry and be able to get back up to speed without having too many people pass us. I look back at the end of the race, and it turns out that other guy on the side of Tosa, I believe, ended up hitting the guy that hit us. So that was a separate issue. That person was going a little too fast. Later on that lap, though, these two clowns ahead of us simultaneously forget how to drive, and we get 2 free positions back. So by the end of lap 2, we are back in 14th place, actually 12th after those two. Later on in the race, we're still having issues going into turns 5 and 6, trying to maximize our speed coming out of there, but I'm not getting the timing right at all. We have another incident up ahead of us going into Tosa. 2 cars ahead end up kissing each other right in the front, and we get another 2 spots back, so that puts us back into 10th place. And as we come around towards the end of that lap, there's someone else in the pits, and we are back into 9th place. Following that small incident, it continued to be a pretty boring race. We hung out in 9th place for a few laps. People would get a little closer to us behind us. I think the closest anybody ever got was about 6.5 seconds. They'd collect 2 more and then just bin it. No one ever really had the chance to catch us. We weren't really taking away any time from the person ahead of us either. So we were in a pretty solid position there in 9. Not solid as in good, but solid as in not really moving around much. It went from boring to exciting pretty quickly, actually, though. Around lap 7 or 8, there was an incident in Tamburello, and the people just started chirping at each other like I hadn't heard in iRacing for a while. They were getting pretty mad in chat, and it ended up being a whole thing. I'll let you guys take a listen to the audio.
P8.
GG Matteo, you're a fucking
There's an
asshole.
incident in Tamburello. Looks like it's Giuliano.
You're so fucking good, bro.
The incident ended up cutting some time down between myself and the cars ahead, though, so we ended up gaining quite a bit of position. One of the drivers involved as well ended up spinning ahead of us and nearly drove directly into us. It was a questionable call, and I would say one of the sketchier moments throughout the race. I just kind of kept my head down and kept racing. With about 4 minutes to go, we started to hunt down the car that was racing ahead of us. We do a sketchy job avoiding this guy in the pits, I will say. He seemed like he was going pretty slow. We set our sights on that guy. He was one of the individuals involved in the incident previously. We end up spending about a lap chasing him down, and during that whole time, the driver ahead of him was pulling away. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, wow, this guy in front of us is kind of slow for running so far up front, especially because he was doing a little bit of blocking, you know, especially not making our lives any easier. Well, come to find out, the individual racing ahead of us in the blue car was actually lap traffic. And so we finally get towards the end of this lap here, and after nearly rear-ending him about 6 times, he finally moves over and lets us go. I was excited chasing him down the whole time. I honestly thought that we were racing somebody, but it was lap traffic slowing me down. As we make our way into the first chicane on the second to last lap, we're in 7th place, but 6th has a spin out. We end up getting ahead of them, and that ends up being a battle for a majority of the rest of the race. They managed to lower the gap to about half a second, but over the course of those last 2 laps never really get any closer. And we come across the line in P6. Overall, I'm not too disappointed with the race. We had a pretty rough start, but I think we held it together, and throughout the race got a lot more comfortable with the track and the car, and held our own, you know, like I said. A lot of the people around us were spinning out, losing control of their cars, and we did a pretty good job of staying on the track. I don't believe we received any incident points. With all that said, let's get into the evaluation. First off, we need to do a little bit more work on the starts, and I would say as far as driving different cars in racing sims, especially when there's different types of starts, I should have done a little bit more research on how to start with the car. Having not raced in a while with it, I was not too comfortable with the procedure. I looked online. A lot of people start off in first gear with the foot on the brake. I started in neutral and tried to shift in, which was probably my downfall, inevitably. Next on my list, I would say, is learning the braking zones for turns 5 and 6. I would say with any other tracks too, again, a little more preparation before the race would have done a lot of help, especially where I started to feel a lot more comfortable towards the end of the race in those turns. You know, I wasn't quite where I was with some of the others, but had I given myself a little bit more time to play around with them previous to the race, we probably would have seen a little bit more improvement through them. Last on my list, ditch the Nelson PK paint scheme. He's been in a lot of hot water recently, and he's kind of not the greatest person, and I'm not a huge fan of him. I just thought the car was cool. I always loved the camel paint scheme, and it's been so long since I've raced with it that it was cool to race with him before. So I think takeaway number 3, we got to change the paint scheme. I've got a project I'm working on. That announcement for that will be coming soon on this channel, so make sure you guys subscribe if you're if you want to learn more about that. We will be getting a new paint scheme very soon. I will be starting the design process on that very soon. And for the gold star for the race, I want to give it to my Sector 3 racing, especially through turns 14 and 15. I've just felt extremely comfortable with the braking zones in those turns. We were gaining a lot of our time per lap on those turns and in Sector 3. And normally I get a little bit scared, especially when I was playing the F1 games. That was always an area for me that I found difficult, but I felt pretty good in these cars going through those turns. Last but not least, I'm going to give myself a B-. I think that's being pretty nice. We didn't have a great race. We were pretty consistent, so I didn't want to reward myself for that. But with the incident on lap 2, I think that, you know, it wasn't anything special. We increased our I rating and our safety rating, so all in all, it was a pretty okay day. That's gonna be it, guys. If you enjoyed what you saw, leave a like and let me know down in the comments if you want to see something like this. I will be streaming a little bit more on Twitch, so go ahead and look in the description down below for the link to my Twitch page. Thank you guys for stopping by, and as always, I'll catch you next time.